Yeah, well, it'll be for all of eternity. This, yeah, yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, there are people like who are like today will listen to like an episode from 9 years ago because for whatever reason they want to hear this person on the show or whatever. So you're gonna have to, consent to this broadcast,
I did.
and if you're okay, I'm gonna start the music and rock and roll here. Is that cool?
Got
And just so you know, obviously, you might know what you're in for, or maybe not. We'll find out on the recording. But I have a few audio clips. One in particular is very important that we get your take on it. So, throughout the show, I'll play a little clip here and there, and you'll hear it just as clearly as I do. So,
Okay.
you're in good hands. Okay,
Bitter.
let's do it. Okay.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 992 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals for your home and your business. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. And Canna Cabana. The lowest prices on cannabis. Guaranteed. Over 100 stores across the country. Learn more at cannacabana.com. Joining me this week, a man not to be confused with TMDS. It's TDM, Terry, David, Mulligan. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Michael. I've heard that intro before, and I keep thinking, when he's not in the studio, he's obviously hustling, or people hustle him.
Well, my friend, I'm honored you listened to an episode. Would you disclose the personality that got you to tune in to find out what the heck you're in for? What did you listen to?
From the land of three named people, Kim Clark Chapman.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you picked a good one, my friend. As you know, wow, what a great conversation that was. Kim Clark Champness, and you, of course, worked for many years with Kim.
Well, we worked for the same company, but he was, even though he was a Westerner, but he ended up in Toronto, of course, as many did. We would see each other on projects. That's about it.
Right.
Other than that, we would talk on the phone and we would exchange, wait a minute, faxes. And basically, there were a lot of Westerners, West Coast people who ended up in Toronto and never came back. Denise Donlan was one.
Yeah, but you, my friend, managed to stay there. I mean, that was always the big thing.
Mike, that was, by the way, I'm going to ask as many questions as you will, because that's my nature.
Love it.
The deal, my pitch to Moses Neimer was, first of all, you call yourself the nation's music station, and you're nowhere to be found in Vancouver or the West Coast or the West in particular. You can't be the nation's music station if you're not here. Why are you not here? You can't just show up every 2-3 months with a crew and shoot something and go back and come back 6 months later. No, you need a guy out there. I'm the guy, but the deal is I'm staying there. I'm not coming to Toronto. I'm a West Coast guy and I have a West Coast story. So, and my wife, after she picked herself up off the floor, who thought I'd talk my way out of a job,
right.
She kind of agreed with the pitch.
I love it, and I know you participated in the great Christopher Ward book, Is This Live? And just fantastic. And shout out to Christopher Ward, who has the acclaim of being the very first, him and JD Roberts, first VJs at Much Music.
Yeah. And it's nice to be first. Now, have you talked to JD Roberts?
You know
John
what?
Rock.
He's been elusive, like a little slippery. I don't think he
Yeah, I
wants
wonder
to
why.
talk to me.
I got to talk to him once. I don't know what the occasion was, but I finally got him to talk. But I just felt compelled. And at the time, he was just doing news at Fox. He wasn't in the front chair at the White House for those 4 years of turmoil. I mean, there's a talk about a book. There's a book.
I think that he'd hate my show for this reason. That what happens is somebody like a J.D. Roberts, John Roberts, sorry, who I cover the president at the White House. I would just be like hyper focused on like the new music. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, let's talk more about Jeannie Becker. Becker, by the way, is in the schedule. Will be on Toronto Mike next month. Everybody, but
by the way, who is show 1000? Have you announced it yet?
Yeah, I guess you'd call it a clip show, but it's new material, so it's not like it's a best of. But I have FOTMs like yourself, because Terry, you're now an FOTM, are actually recording themselves talking about the podcast or the experience. You record yourself for 30 to 90 seconds and you email it to mike@torontomike.com. And I basically string these together and kind of respond. And it's kind of interesting because I've been building this thing.
It's kind of found material, Mike. It's kind of nice that people show these clips conveniently show up for you so you can patch them together. Very nice.
And it's sort of good for my ego because, you do this for 10 years and you kind of just plow along. Eventually, maybe a Terry David Mulligan will carve out an hour or so for you. But basically what I've done is I've told guests to praise me. It's like, here, record yourself praising me for 30 to 90 seconds. So I listen to these things and my head just like grows and grows and grows.
Do you want my clip now?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll carve it out. Go ahead.
Listen, the whole thing about Toronto Mike is that he was out in front. He was like the starter of Much Music right at the very beginning, before any of those guys came along. That's the same sort of thing. If you could do 1,000 shows in this business on the internet web machine, you have done something. You are a groundbreaker. You are a trendsetter, and you are to be celebrated. It's fantastic. Anybody can start one of these things, but to actually live through 1,000 and carry on is phenomenal. Congratulations.
That's perfect. You read the script perfectly. Thank you. And that guy would be John Martin, right? Like when we talk about Much Music, I mean, of course, Moses needs his praise, of course, but John Martin is sort of the guy, right? Who's like, is it John who had to kind of be sold on the whole Terry David Mulligan doing a Much West? Is that Martin who had to decide that?
It would be Nancy or John in that office, those two, and but I thought John came out actually. John was the guy that came out with Nancy, and we had lunch in Gastown, and he said, "I need you to get a shooter." Because I'd come from CBC, where we had great teams, great shooters, incredible equipment and technical knowledge. Right. And they said, go out to BCIT, to the where the students are learning how to be broadcasters, and get yourself a 3/4 inch camera machine, find a shooter, and then send it to us. And I said, you know what it's going to look. You know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like crap. You guys are professional broadcasters. My stuff comes in like it's Shaw Cable. Sorry, and so I finally convinced them that they better open up some budget and get our own camera and our own shooter. And nothing really happened with Much West until we got our own shooter and our own camera, and then we could go wherever we wanted to. Because strangely enough, in the beginning days of Much Music, real shooters went, "Oh no, that's awful. What do you do? Why are you moving the camera? Why are you shooting yourself? I know, go." So they didn't understand.
Yeah, nowadays that's the way it is, right? Like it's just it's you're ahead of the game. I will say, whenever I talk to somebody, I'm thinking of like a Joel Goldberg or something. You always hear like you had anything at your disposal except money. It sounds like at the city much. It's like go ahead. Figure it out, but don't spend money, right? Yeah. And you
one of the most memorable lines I can remember at Much Music, I would walk in, maybe once every 2 months. I'd walk in, and I walked in one day, and it was like 11:30, 11:45. I was going to meet somebody for lunch, and I heard one of the producers say, "There's one." They were, because again, I think Steve Anthony hadn't shown up, and they didn't have an announcer. And I walked in, and I heard that phrase loud and clear. There's one.
Well,
And I
Steve.
was on the air 10 minutes later.
Now Steve's clean and sober today, of course, and doing well. I actually did receive a recording from him for episode 1000, so he'll be on that one. As will you, now that I have your clip. But he did have that period of time where he was enjoying the white powder, and that, I believe, that can be bad for, like, being on time.
I'm astonished that he survived himself. I am.
Okay.
And I congratulate him for that.
So he's he's been very open and honest about it, and he's overcome it. I think he replaced his cocaine habit with artificial sweetener. So,
and cannabis.
Yes, he's I think
in
he's
the cannabis business. Yes.
So shout out to Canna Cabana, proud sponsors of the show. But I know Steve's got like some ventures in Vancouver, because every once in a while I'll get a note from Steve asking me if I want to invest in it.
Yeah, I get the same thing.
That's wild. Did you get the text from Steve, which is like, "Do not reply to this. I'm organizing my."
Yes.
What's that about?
I spend as little time as possible trying to decipher what Steve is telling me. No, truly. And he came out here. I was meeting with Chip James and Mike Campbell from Mike and Mike. Right. And all of a sudden, Steve says, "Hey, I'm in Duncan. I'm coming up the island. Let's come on." And then there was 4 of us standing in a windstorm, 75-mile-an-hour winds. It's a great shot. I'll share it with you. And we had a wonderful time. And then he disappeared. No, that's not true. He went to Tofino.
Okay.
And coming back, he told me the story of picking up 2 hitchhikers, incredibly drunk. And the ride back into the 2.5-hour ride back into Nanaimo. Wow. There's a movie. The guy is a movie, frankly.
He's bananas. He's just bouncing off walls here. But here, let's get back on track here. We kind of teased the Much Music portion. A lot of people kind of in this neck of the woods discovered Terry David Mulligan because of Much Music. But let's go back a bit.
Let me correct you.
Oh no, you're right. Well, good rockin' tonight.
No, I'll correct you even more. Molson Golden Ale.
Oh, the Gold Rush. No, Molson Golden Ale.
No. Molson Golden Ale. I auditioned for when I was there, I auditioned for a commercial, Molson Golden Ale. And I kind of just said, "Listen, I may not have gotten this, but I have 9 beagles at home. If you're doing any dog food commercials, let me know." And they laughed, and I went home and I got the gig. I ended up, we needed a team to tell a set up punchline. Yeah. And they cast the cast of John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner.
Godspell. This is the Godspell crew.
Oh, no, the whole Second City.
Okay.
They just hired the Second City guys to come in and do all the stuff. And we did almost 40 commercials over 5 years. And we sold Molson Golden Ale, and they ran between every commercial break of all the hockey games.
Was Jane Eastwood part of this crew?
Oh, absolutely. I love, and that's the other interview that I listened to was Jane Eastwood. I love Jane Eastwood.
I got yesterday. She sent in an audio clip for episode 1000. It's going to be a star-studded affair. It's going to be like tears are not enough, but we'll get to that later. That's a teaser for everybody. But amazing. Okay, so that's like, I'm confused by your whole trajectory, because you're originally a Mountie.
Yep. 60 to 64, I was a Mountie. And then I quit the force and started doing radio in Red Deer, Alberta. My father didn't talk to me for a couple of years. He was pretty disappointed. And then all I wanted to do was get back to Vancouver. So I went Red Deer, Calgary. I thought I was going to be into Vancouver, and I couldn't get into Vancouver. So I ended up in Regina. And then Red Robinson phoned me and said, "Come on back home." And we started CFUN, I did CFUN, and then CKLG. And then finally, I was in the right place at the right time. And I got a chance to actually program and start the first underground FM rock station in Canada, which became CFOX.
Okay, so what year are we looking at when you're at CFOX?
I don't remember.
But 60s?
Yeah, end of the 60s, into the 70s. I do know that I went to San Francisco on a contract for the Gap, and then came back and did morning radio in Vancouver, and did Good Rockin' Tonight, Great Canadian Gold Rush, all those shows. And it is a blur. I actually do have to sit down and look at calendars to figure out where I was at what time. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, as I sort this out, I'm going to read a note that came in from a fellow British Columbia resident, Dale Cadeau, who loves this program, but he was born in Streetsville, so born and raised in Streetsville. So he's a transplant. He's a transplanted Torontonian or Mississaugan. But he writes, my first encounter with TDM was Hey Taxi with Bill Ryder.
Yeah, that's right.
Both great guys, but only one shares a birthday with me. So I believe Dale shares a birthday with you. I don't know when your birthday is, but that's also Dale's birthday.
Contest closes June 30th.
Okay. That's almost the same
before
as mine.
Canada Day. Yeah.
Right. I'm late June as well. So what's Hey Taxi?
Hey Taxi was a kid's show, but it was a stoner kid show. Like it was really weird. We had an incredible cast, and we did sort of adult one-liners, but toned down for kids, and it was incredibly funny to shoot, incredibly funny to do. And Bill and I would everything was ad-libbed totally. We knew what the start was. We had no idea what the finish was. We just talked till we stopped, and then they put it together.
And now I'm going to ask you about a show. I even have the opening theme, and we're going to bounce around a bit chronologically, mainly because I'm not 100% sure what order everything goes in. But
neither am I, and I can't help you.
So let's listen to this theme song and then see how this ties in with Hey Taxi there.
Zigzag will not be seen at this time, so that we may bring you a special edition of Zigzag News.
Well, the Zigzag News now has an exclusive interview with the chicken who started it all. The king of the chicken joke, or should I say queen of the chicken joke, which, whatever, depending on what you're talking about. Here now is my favorite Zigzag reporter, the absolutely gorgeous Georgia Strait. Georgia?
This is Georgia Strait bringing you the infamous Alfred Hitchcock of the famous
Okay.
chicken joke.
Am I tripping out here? What's going on? Tell us, like,
This is a Saturday. This is a Saturday morning kids show, and I have had a number of people come up to me in later years saying I would wake up at 8:00 in the morning, I would smoke a joint, and I would watch this show. No, that's not the way to start a day. Come on, man. The whole day is downhill from there. I will mention, I got to tell you, it was just a Saturday morning kids show when the adults decided to do it. I wanted to do it for my kids because they were the right age. And I love Bill Ryder, and we worked well together. But there was an ace in the hole there. You didn't see her or hear her, but her name was Valerie Bromfield. When Dan Aykroyd auditioned for Second City, his comedy partner was Val Bromfield. She could do literally any voice, any character at the drop of a hat. And I got, as soon as I discovered her cross paths, I used her and used her talent on radio for years. And she's disappeared. She probably just stepped off the grid. Val Bromfield, one of and an original writer on the David Letterman show.
Wow. Okay, my mind's blowing here. But that's Zigzag. We talked about Hey Taxi. And just for the record, because I'm not remembering either show, even though I have friends about my age who remember Zigzag very well. I don't know how I missed it, to be honest. But what's the difference between Hey Taxi and Zigzag? Completely different shows, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. No, Hey Taxi was a CBC show that just sort of was a comedy show. But no, the kids show was completely controlled by the cast and the producers, and we were just sort of a little island of insanity on a Saturday morning, and it still remains to this day one of the most viewed shows that they ever did, simply because of YouTube.
Right. And is this sort of like a switchback, like not switchback, obviously, but that kind
of that vein? Everybody was trying to find a Saturday morning show that would work, that could go national. But at the time, we just did it because it made us laugh like crazy. We
Right.
loved going in there and doing it.
So when exactly do you show up on Chum FM?
Oh, man, what a time. I've actually almost wiped that from my memory. I didn't, I was hired by Chum AM. I think it was 68, 69, somewhere in there. And I hated it. I just hated it. I hated it
Wow.
because that was just after I had started CKLG FM, which became CFox. And it was all free form. You know, you play the whole side of an album. It was totally different from anything that had happened previously. But, you know, Chum AM was locked into top 30 songs.
Right.
Robert Wood, I said, I want to talk to people. He said, okay, I'll give you 15 seconds
Right.
at 15 and 15 seconds at 2, and that's it. And I went, I can't exist. No, I got to go. No, I got.
And that's called the Drake format, right?
Yeah, that's right. And Larry Green was on FM. I said, Larry, why can't I be there? He said, there's no room. No, and you can't go from AM to FM. And so I went back to Vancouver.
Well, because I mean, at that time, Chum FM was a really cool station. Like I'm thinking, Brian Master was probably there. Maybe Pete and Geets were there.
Pete and
Awesome.
Geets, but Larry was my contact, and I felt very comfortable there. And they knew that I'd started CKLG FM, but there was just social politics going on
Wow.
there. So,
But you also worked with a Foster Hewitt station, right? CKFH, the open lid.
FH, and what they said was, do what your FM idea is, put it on AM. Let's do it on AM, and that's what we did. It was incredibly cool. I think it was 10-1, something like that, and I loved it. The problem was, on a personal family thing, we had lost our mother back in Vancouver,
I'm sorry.
and my sister phoned and said, Dad's falling apart. We need you here. And I said, okay. And I 3 months had gone by and I gave my notice. I think the reputation I got was he can only stand 3 months in Toronto, because it was the same thing with Chum. But basically it was family dynamics. I lost my mom, and then I was about to lose my dad, and so I got back and helped him maintain. We were a tight family, still are.
Well, family first. That all makes complete sense. But now I'm curious. So there's a gentleman named Rob Cowan who's been on the program. He was actually the first guy to say the Fan 1430 when CJCL kind of adopted that moniker there. And he does a kick butt, I'll even say it, a kick ass, dare I say, a Foster Hewitt impression. So he submitted a clip for episode 1000 in the voice of Foster Hewitt, which is kind of funny. But I'm wondering, I guess you met and got to know Foster Hewitt, I suppose, working at CKF.
I did not. I never saw him. No, he wasn't coming into the station. The guy was an icon. He started
his son, right? Bill Hewitt?
His initials, yeah. But no, I never did. He didn't wander the halls. But I did get to meet Ace Trucking Company, the comedy specialist. I still am. My life was shortened by the 15, 20 minutes they were in the studio.
I find you fascinating. I got another clip here, real quick one here, but let's talk about this show.
Gold Rush. Hello, my name's Terry David Mulligan. I'm host of the Great Canadian Gold Rush. 90 minutes of rock and talk, live concerts, interviews, and enough excitement to make you swoon. So swoon with us, Monday nights on AM, Saturday nights on FM. We're going to rock and roll on the CBC Radio Network.
All right, TDM, talk to me about the Great Canadian Gold Rush on
Well,
CBC.
it's one person. It's Susan Engelbert, who was the producer. She went on to actually run pretty much the whole entertainment production side of CBC Radio in Vancouver and Toronto. And we lost her to cancer. And we remember her every Christmas when myself and Roy Forbes and Barney Bentall and people who knew her get together and do Christmas songs in the round, because she started that whole idea. That was her show. Claire Lawrence was the producer as well, played with Collectors and others. And basically it was a rock and roll, as I say, I leaned into that because CBC didn't do rock and roll then. They didn't want to touch their fingers to it, but we were allowed to. and we had great fun. We just opened it up and played pretty much anything we wanted to play. Talk to the nation, and I had a great time. It opened my whole musical experiences as well, because I wasn't listening to punk, and it brought punk to me. Right.
Amazing. And that was a TV commercial for a radio show, but I think we're coming out of, I believe that's the Keith Hampshire show. What was that called? Do you remember the Keith Hampshire talk show?
I remember the Keith Hampshire show, and I'm still friends with Keith. We talk a couple of times a year.
Well, you're in the same exclusive club, Terry, because he's an FOTM as well.
Oh, here's the thing. I can't remember yesterday, but I can remember Keith's phone number. It's ridiculous. Wow. Why is that possible? 1-705-456-3707.
Okay, I'm gonna phone that.
The other thing about the Great Canadian Gold Rush is that Steve Macklem was just a guy with a toque, would show up. He would come back from London. I don't know what he was doing there. He'd have a bag of singles, and we would play them one at a time. All the punk bands that we weren't hearing in Canada, he brought back. Wow. Steve Macklem went on to become the head of management at Macklem Feldman Entertainment in Vancouver, and now manages some of the biggest artists in the world.
Wow. I'm holding up an original 45 single.
That's Keith's single, right?
That's Keith's single. Yeah, he sings on this. And he told me a great story about how he didn't get like this one gold or something. I don't know what it is in Canada, but he never got any kind of like plaque, or I guess they give you something for your wall or whatever.
I believe his name, I think it's Plaid.
Plan. But he called in and asked for one. They sent it, but they also sent him an invoice for it, which I think is a great part of the story.
No way.
So shout out to Keith Hampshire though. Man, he was on freaking. Let's talk about this guy was on pirate radio in.
He was.
That's amazing. This guy.
He was on pirate radio. One of the guys. One of
Radio Caroline.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So Great Canadian Gold Rush sounds like a cool show. I'm sorry I missed it, but I got a question from a listener, Phil Sounds, who wants me to ask you about interviewing Jimi Hendrix. So where I know when Jimmy passes away. So where exactly are you when you interview Jimi Hendrix?
It's the first time he plays Vancouver, and Ken Gibson, the producer of Good Rockin' Tonight, right, says, we have a Jimi Hendrix interview. We have to do all three of them, the whole experience. They'll be on a couch. Here's the album. And it was scary because we had no idea who this guy was. We all knew that he would set his guitar on fire and his hair was like, he was wild. He was the wildest guitarist we had ever heard. Okay. Here's one of my great regrets. If you have a regret question, this is the answer to it. In the whole run up to interviewing Jimi Hendrix, no one ever told me, and I never learned that he had grown up partially in Vancouver because of his relationship with his father and family in Seattle, and the fact that his aunt was in Vancouver and he felt safer and happier in Vancouver. And it wasn't until about halfway through the interview that he's saying, is such a high school open? What's going on over there at the Kerrisdale Arena? And I went, oh man, what have I missed? Right. What an opportunity lost. I'm to this day, it still bothers me. Something fierce.
Well, if you had no regrets, you need to have a regret or two. If you're going to have one, that's not a terrible one to have.
We have to move on here, Mike.
The Mulligan Stew. Okay, Mulligan Stew. This is, as far as my research tells me, this is an Edmonton public radio
Come on, Mike. Come on, man.
Tell me, Mulligan Stew. I should know this.
Can you see your screen?
Here, I'm switching. I was looking at another screen. No, wait a minute. Focus that in. Who? That's Jim Carrey. Who are we looking at there?
No, it's Keith Richards backstage.
Oh, it's Keith Richards. Wow, for Keith
backstage at Giant Stadium. With I think some 50,000 people outside having a beer with Keith before we go on.
Wow.
I realize now that this camera's not going to work. This is David.
You just gotta kind of hold it for a second, and it should focus. I have a blur effect on your.
Jesus. This is me. Oh shit! This isn't going.
Yeah, it's because you got the blur effect. You don't want me to see your messy room there. Technology foiling us again. But what was that picture of? You were playing softball.
It was a David Foster a softball tournament that he raised money for year after year, and it's me on one side, Gordie Howe, the other side, Brian Mulrooney. Come on,
Can we go there then now? Because this is in fact, the only reason I wanted you on, Terry, is to do this. But I do have to get to Good Rockin' tonight, and I got to do more Much Music. There's a lot to cover with you, my friend. But I'm going to do this right now. So I'm going to play a clip. This is like a documentary that aired about the making of Tears Are Not Enough. Okay. It's a very short clip. You'll recognize the voice because it belongs to Bruce Allen. Here we go.
Okay, Ray, thanks a lot. Got to run.
Gordon Lightfoot, returning your call.
Gordon, how are you? Good, good, good. Listen, I know you're in the middle of doing a session. But I got to just give me a break and just take off Sunday. Just take off Sunday. I talked to Foster. We'll do the chorus first. We'll blow everybody else out of there. And then we'll let the first 2 lines, Gordon, for God's sake.
Okay, so let me give a little context here, right? And I'm going to beg you for any details you have because me and my co-host Cam Gordon did a 2.5-hour deep dive into Tears Are Not Enough. We're fascinated by this. Okay, so just so you know that. Bruce Allen, I guess David Foster, obviously, we're going to talk about him here because he's heavily involved. And Bruce Allen is trying to get Gordon Lightfoot to go into a Toronto studio to record the first couple, he's got the first couple of lines or whatever, but you're at the table.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there. So I need to know, just tell me, like, how are you there? How are you involved?
Well, they were both really good friends. I don't need any questions, Mike. You can all you have to do is just set me in motion. I was great friends with Bruce Allen still to this day. My whole email system is set up because of his Mulligan. And David Foster and I were friends even longer. Like, they're longtime friends of mine, in and out of the business. And then Adams and I were friends just because I helped get him to a certain point in his career, and then he took off. So it was very comfortable to actually be in that room, because they needed my smarts about media. They wanted to know my contacts, who to get a hold of, how to make this work. We can't find this guy. Can you help us find this guy? So basically all along the way, I was just there for support. I was forbidden to bring a camera, which really pissed off Moses, because he said, why are you in there and not doing a story for us? I said, because they said, don't do that. We want you to be you and not you, the media guy. Right. And so, that was okay with me, frankly, because it was such a journey, such an adventure, to watch it all unfold, to hear the original song in its bits and pieces, and then it came together, and it was magic how the song came together. And then came the day, and all these faces that we all know walk in. Candy's over in the corner. The Second City guys were over in the corner. And what I remember, I don't know if it made the final documentary. Foster, on his last phone call, is okay, bye. Hung it down. He looked at me and said, "Buffy bailed." And to this day, I carry that phrase. That is my phrase to a couple of my friends. When something goes wrong, I always say Buffy bailed. And
I wondered where she was. We were trying to.
I don't know where she was. And I've interviewed her like half a dozen times. I've never asked her why she never got there. Wow. But she could have been living in Hawaii at the time.
Now, why was Leonard Cohen not there?
Maybe not his kind of role. And I never heard the dialogue about Leonard Cohen. I think it's simple. He either was part of it or wasn't. He could have been going through his Buddhist period, his retreat, completely off grid. Right. We don't know.
That's right. Now, so many questions here. I've seen the footage of David Foster's how is that on? That must have been recreated, because there couldn't have been a camera in there. But he's driving across in Vancouver, so he's on the road. He's kind of putting the thing together. But specific question on that clip I played. So that's Bruce Allen. We got Gord on the phone. Gordo, we got to get you in there. Please tell me the truth. Real talk. Was that staged for the documentary?
No. But if you ask Bruce, he'd stage it. He would. No, right. They were just shooting.
That was real, because you're in the room. I want to remind everybody, I can see you sitting there at the table when that call takes place, so you can hear Gord's voice on the other line.
Yeah. It was you have to understand, it was a blur. That was one of perhaps 50 calls on the day. So how you remember individual calls is really kind of up to you. I just remember Buffy bailed. And I remember how great the song turned out. after all of this work, the exhaustion when we were done. And I walked out in the cold light of day and I thought, holy, how am I going to remember this?
Now, there's a interesting story about Bruce Colburn's contribution, right? So I guess this is booked through Bernie. By the way, Bernie Finkelstein sent in a clip for episode 1000. So Bernie did it. Everyone should be doing it. Shout out to Bernie. He's a great FOTM. But I guess he's the guy you talk to when you want Bruce to be on your charity single. But I guess, is it Jim Valance? This is the guy who Brian Adams' cohort is Valance, right?
Yeah, Valance did the lyrics pretty much, I think.
Right. And he gets on a plane. I believe he gets on a plane. And I think I'm going to get the name. Maybe it's Hamburg. Maybe it's Frankfurt. I can't remember. Somewhere in Germany, Bruce Colburn is playing. And they record his part in a studio in Germany. And I think Jim gets there. So he flies to Germany to get this, because I guess he's got to get this. And Bruce apparently had not decided he wanted to participate yet. Like, he hadn't actually made up his mind yet. And there's Jim in Frankfurt or where. I think it was Hamburg maybe. But that's, like, to me, these stories about Tears Are Not Enough are just mind-blowing. Wild.
Did you, well, but more importantly,
yeah,
what is the fascination with it, with you?
Just everything about it is fascinating to me, from its, like, just the people involved and the dynamic. Like, I find it interesting, for example, that FOTM Leona Boyd shows up to record this charity single for famine relief in Ethiopia, and she's wearing this big fur jacket. Like, I find that amazing. Mark Holmes from Platinum Blonde shows up in a stretched limousine. I know there's that Leave Your
That's
Egos.
nice. That's nice.
The Neil Young, I think it's David Foster asks Neil Young to, like, put this in key or something.
He says, you know, you're flat. He says, that's my song, man. That's my sound, man.
That's like my sound, man. And then the omissions, like, why I didn't know until right now that Buffy bailed. Like, I'm trying to find out, like, where's Buffy? I'm trying to think of who should have been there but wasn't. Dude, if you ever have 2.5 hours to burn, maybe you're going for a nice long walk or something. Yeah. I did 2.5 hours on this song with Cam Gordon. It's in the archives here.
Okay, I'm going to switch subjects on you because.
Go ahead, sure.
Well, simply because I'm remembering things that I forgot.
Cool.
My Canadian moment, I would love that whole Tears Are Not Enough experience. I loved it, I lived it, but I was also at the Last Waltz in San Francisco.
Right.
Bobby Robertson invited me down, and I was standing in that room for the entire day, for the turkey dinner, for the sound check, for everything. Well, not sound check, they did it the day before, but watching the camera set up. And that moment when Neil Young was called out by Robbie and the band, and he says, this is the greatest honor, and it's true. And his first song is Helpless, singing about Northern Ontario in San Francisco,
right,
in front of this audience and for the cameras, with Joni in behind doing the harmony. And I'm thinking, you got 4 of the 5 guys in the band. You've got Neil Young, you got Joni Mitchell, all singing and holding this moment.
Wow.
And I'm here. I mean,
did you weep?
I wept.
I would weep. Yeah.
I wept openly. And
wow.
And I was the only one that cared.
Well, you know, I believe that you might have been with FOTM John Donaby. Was he in the room? I feel like because he's a great
John Donaby. There, I didn't see him. It was a kind of a jammed, very stoned room.
Well, he was a very dear friend of the band, but mainly Levon Helm he's very close to Levon.
I was honored to be there. And then later, when Robbie was mixing, I was down doing some junket interviews for movie television, right. And Robbie and I got in touch with each other, and he was mixing the album, and he was in a mixing theater where the VU meter, that's the old school VU meter, was at the base of the screen, and he was at the back of the theater. So in order for him to see that VU meter, it was 10 feet tall.
Wow.
It was going like this. That was huge. Oh, it was fantastic. Anyway,
I'm going to do a little tangent and then bring it back. But Martin Scorsese, since we're talking about The Last Waltz here, he also filmed a SCTV documentary here in Toronto a few years back, pre-pandemic. So I know it's got to be like 2019 or something. Okay. But it's never seen the light of day. Marty Scorsese seems to be sitting on this footage, and I know, like, this. I know a lot of us SCTV fanatics would love to see this footage. You got any pull with Marty? You think you can make a call?
I have no pull with Marty. I've stopped doing junkets. I still review film. Who was the lead in SCTV then? Who was like the star?
Well, and you had everybody there who's around. I mean, even Rick Moranis made the trip, and he so even Rick was there. But obviously Eugene Levy and Joe Flaherty and
that's
Catherine
good.
O'Hara was there. Eugene Levy was there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, now that we talked earlier about Jane Eastwood, married to Joe Flaherty's brother.
Yep.
For a long until he passed away, sadly. Okay, I love it. But anytime a story hits you, because I love that story there, and
I just fire it out because
fire it out, man.
Some things I'm not going to remember. Okay.
But I am going to play something that'll jog your memory on this. Since we're bouncing around the time of Tears Are Not Enough, let's hear this.
I got to catch my breath. Really, this show is getting too quick for me. Just give me a second. Grab yourself a pen and paper because we have an address for you for merchandise. We'll show you the merchandise in just a second, but I have a letter here from Kim Jones in Vancouver. It says, "Hey Terry, is it true that Shout by Tears for Fears hasn't been released in the States, but a different song from their album was?" Yes, that's correct. Everybody Wants to Rule the World was the first single from Songs from a Big Chair. They haven't even heard Shout as a single down there. Very hot Tears for Fears. Okay, now, you asked about merchandise. How do you get the goodies? Well, let me first of all tell you what the goodies are. There's a gray sweatshirt with pink lettering, and it says, "Hey, have you heard the news? It's Good Rockin' Tonight." This is black with
okay, I'll break this down, but I need to know the story of Good Rockin' Tonight. I will say that Stu Jeffries has been on the program. I know he took your spot there, and this all ties in with you getting to Much Music, but I will say, much like in the Kim Clark Champness episode, that in the pre-internet days, we didn't know what was going on. Like that Tears for Fears nugget you drop, that's the kind of stuff I was like hungry for in 1985. And there were only so many spots you could get that. And it's cool that you're one of the sources we had for those kind of, interesting nuggets and mind blows pre-internet.
That's fantastic. I was just doing my job, but we did have ears open for new stuff, new groups. To break a band in this country would be huge. And I will put huge credit on CBC for doing that, but also Much Music. Bands, it was gold for bands to be on Much Music. It really was. You could, if you wanted to tour and you were a band from St. John's, how do you talk to the West Coast if you can't talk through either CBC or Much Music? And Much Music was open and receptive. You did a video, it was seen in Vancouver, you could tour, you could have a career, right? So that was the value of Much Music. It ain't there now.
No, that's those days are long gone here. But so we're gonna get you to Much, because I'm guessing Much is the reason you end up leaving Good Rock.
We got to move on, buddy. We got to move on to the Mulligan stew and everything I'm doing now.
Okay, well, do you have a hard stop I'm unaware of? You gotta because we got so much good stuff here.
Yeah, breakfast is important.
Well, this is more important. This is gonna live forever, Terry. Trust me, you're in good hands here. We're getting there. I want to hear about everything you're doing now. But give me a little bit about how you got the gig at Good Rockin' Tonight, and then maybe why you leave Good Rockin' Tonight.
I am on radio. I'm doing constant radio, and I'm a voice in Vancouver that's recognizable, and I'm putting up good numbers, and I'm behaving myself. Ken Gibson was looking around for a host. He thought about Freddie Latrimo. He thought about me. He thought about a couple of other people, and I got the gig. I never did ask why. I just got the gig, and it was important that I do it right and represent. That's really the deal. I wanted to represent the West Coast because it was getting shortchanged.
Right.
And we were walking away with Junos. Adams was winning it big time. There was a nice little Loverboy was coming along, Powder Blues, all those guys. There was things going on the coast that needed to be seen across the country and heard. And I just thought I could help.
Amazing. And then you get, I suppose you segue that into the Much West we talked about off the top on Much Music.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, actually, what it was I kept saying to CBC, you got a hit here. This is a hit. Look at the mail. Look at the mail that's coming in.
Right.
And I got the impression that and I thought, okay, I can see how much numbers and music, the weight that it has at Much Music. Why don't I just go where it's valued, where you, and actually I wanted some guarantee, some solid job guarantee that I wouldn't be fired after a 6-month term. And they were a little slow on their negotiations, and Much Music was offering years. So there you go.
And you didn't feel too old for Much? I mean, because
you know what? I never thought about it, but in fact, I was at times too old for Much. I was, but
Right.
I mean, nobody else came along to bump me off of any. I know there were tapes arriving all the time, but I tried to stay. Here's the deal, and still to this day,
Yeah.
it's easy for me to do Mulligan Stew for CKUA. I do it 2 hours every Saturday. I follow Holger Peterson's blues show. It's fantastic, and I donor supported the whole province of Alberta and on their app. And the fact still remains is, I force myself to listen to new music. It's too easy just to play Sting or the Police or Zeppelin or Beatles or Stones or whatever. I play them, but I'm saying, if you like the Stones, then check out this band now. And then there'll be a young band that sounds like the Stones. I just try to keep is for me as much as the audience.
Now we can listen to this program even in Toronto online, right?
Exactly, sir. It's called the Internet Web Machine, and I'm on Saturday, 4 to 6 Pacific, 5 to 7 Mountain, 7 to 9 Eastern, and then whatever those weird hours are in the Maritimes. God bless them. God bless them. Have another beer, and frankly, it's 2 hours, and it's the best. It's just I'm surrounded by. You can't see it because I'm blurred. I'm moving. I'm stacked to the ceiling stuff that I'm going to be playing over the next couple of shows.
I mean, when you say moving, you're not leaving the province though, right? Because you're going to stay in.
I'm leaving my spot on Vancouver Island in the News Bay, and I'm going down island to Mill Bay, which is just on the other side of the Malahat, which is a little mountain pass that takes you into Victoria. You're 30 minutes outside of Victoria. It's gorgeous. But we wanted to be closer to Victoria because that's where our grandkids are. We have grandkids on Salt Spring Island, right out the front window. And we're there to support, you know.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. Tuesday Noon is a listener who wrote this. It's not a question, so you just have to listen to this. It says, Mike, not a question, just a memory of when Terry David Mulligan took a trip to New York City to interview the Stones and flew back to 299 Queen, and they aired the interview with the band. He was so jacked up with excitement. Always remember that. He is amazing at interviews.
That's I pride myself in interviews, as you. I'm sure, Mike, that you do the same thing. It's you know, you get it right. The whole idea of doing a so the first question. So how's the tour going? I turn the moment I hear that, I turn off the interview. I'm not interested. Your first question should never be how's the tour going. The first question should be, first of all, are you safe and well in this day and age? And secondly, why did you do such as you have to get right into it immediately.
Gotcha.
And I remember that Stones concert. Denise Donlan sent me down. I was absolutely blessed, and I'll try it one more time. That's me and Keith
Here, I'm
backstage.
flipping over. Oh wow, yeah.
Okay,
Very
send it to
cool.
you if you want, and then
Very cool.
your editing team can clip it in.
I'll get the team on that right away. Absolutely. Me, myself, and I.
Come on, how big is the team? Is it a one-man team or a two-man?
One-man team. Every part of it, all of it.
Me and you, man.
It's fun that way, right? I find it fun. Like I could grow a team. Maybe I'll be a rich guy one day if I did that, but it wouldn't be as fun. So what's the point?
And how's your tech knowledge?
Oh, very strong, because it all started actually on that side, and then I had to kind of figure out the microphone where you started on the mic, and you had to
You're
go
so
back.
lucky. Without my friend Corey Wood, I would be absolutely dead in the water.
See, I would be like, if you were a Toronto guy, I might be your Corey Wood, right? So that's, you got like Vancouver Corey going on there. Or so. Okay. There's a note came in about you and Ed the Sock not getting along. Can you confirm or deny those allegations?
I confirm that.
So,
I
Ed, though,
confirm.
Ed, who is actually Steve Kersner. Yeah, I guess, what is the overlap like with you and Ed the Sock on Much Music, though? I feel like, when do you leave Much? Let's get, so I know you're itching to get some breakfast in you, so I'll try to hit the hot spots here. But
Oh, it's not that, but I have another whole
okay.
side of my life. I mean, the whole acting thing that happened for
Okay.
so many years.
Well, here, we'll segue to acting right now by me playing a Gap ad from 1983. Okay, so this is 30 seconds. Let's go.
Do it at the Gap. Get that do it up feeling. Do it up.
And fall into Christmas values and great gift ideas for less. Save at least 15% on great-looking Britannia jeans in the season's most wanted styles. Now at super low prices of less than $20. And for gals, buy our painter's pants for $15 and save $4 on a colorful sweatshirt. A great outfit for less. Take the humbug out of Christmas and fall into the Gap.
Fall into the Gap.
Yes, San Francisco. And here's the cool thing about the Gap. Well, first of all, the cool thing was that it was a personal services contract and good dough. It got Meg and I into San Francisco, where we had a child, and but also it allowed me to do what I had always wanted to do, which was take acting training, because I was only really working every 3-4 weeks, and so I could, in the meantime, I could take acting training, which is what I did. I really wanted to do it. And it turned into my acting career because by the time I went back to Vancouver, I had some chops and I could actually work on it.
And I mean, you're going to elaborate on this, but I had a question, for example, about your cameo. This is from Jerry the Garbage Man. He wanted me to ask you about your cameo in Hardcore Logo.
Yes, well, it wasn't really, I mean, a cameo is when you play yourself, right? I was frankly playing a character because we were in the basement of Bruce Allen's building. I decided to play Bruce Allen, or a version of Bruce Allen, kind of like the hard outer shell that he was, and the sort of soft ooey center that he is really, and put on some glasses and worked it. And I haven't gone back to watch it, but it's memorable to be in that film.
That's sort of like when Mike Myers is really, when he does his Dr. Evil character, he's just playing Lorne Michaels. And shout out to your fellow British Columbian Paul Myers, who's a good FOTM. I like his work.
He's in San Francisco now.
Oh, okay. Do you know what?
He's been there like 10, 15 years now.
You're right. It's all, the West Coast is all the same to me. I just blob it together here. But tell me a bit.
When's the last time you were out here?
Oh, not that long ago, 2019.
Okay, fine.
So, and I was actually, I remember, because when the Terry Fox statue was treated so disrespectfully this past weekend in Ottawa, I went and found the photo of me at Victoria at mile 1 there with
nice.
the Terry statue. So, yeah. So I know it was 2019, but you got in there just pre-pandemic. It was quite the trip. Love it out there. Love it.
Just one thought. I was told by Rick Hansen that his buddy, when Terry Fox trained for his journey across the country, he listened to my morning show.
Oh my God.
And ran to the music that I was playing.
Oh my goodness.
I would never have known if he hadn't told me.
I'm such a Terry. I mean, I was the perfect age, I think, when he was doing his run, and I just was in love with Terry. And to this day, every single year, I do the Terry Fox run, and I raise money for that charity. Love it. Wow, that's amazing. So when it comes to your acting, like for example, Basement Dweller says, what was it like working with Ethan Hawke in the 1991 movie Mystery Date?
Oh, man. It was, you know what, I did it because I was playing his dad. I really didn't know who Ethan Hawke was, so to speak, or who he's become now.
Right.
Every time a movie comes out, I request an interview. The last one the interview I did with him was for the Chet Baker story that he did. But there's too many people between me and him now, and the message doesn't get through to him. Otherwise, he'd be doing the interview. But we stayed good friends. He always asked about my family because he met them, and it was fantastic. But other than that, I can't remember much about the movie. And again, I haven't gone back to watch it.
So give us a little idea of how prolific is your. I know on IMDb it's a long list, but I'm friends with a gentleman here you might know named Dan Duran, and whenever there's a movie in town that needs like an anchor,
Yep.
Dan's the guy. Like I see him, he's
Guy.
always there playing the news anchor guy or whatever. But you're doing some more actual acting in your career.
Well, I actually told my agent going in, I won't audition for what I am. I'm not going to be a disc jockey, and I'm not going to be a news anchor. I'm going to be. Otherwise, that's all they'll ever see me for. I need to be able to do other things and other characters. And she said, "Okay, you're throwing away some dough." I said, "I know, but I think it'll pay off in the end." And I haven't acted in 6-7 years. But now that I'm closer to Victoria, I think I might be back in the game.
What is the acting role you're most proud of?
The Accused.
Oh yeah, Jodie Foster.
Well, I was watching an Oscar performance.
Right.
She won the Oscar for Best Actor, and I was just amazed at how she stayed in character. She became that person and did not leave that person until we were done shooting. And I worked on that movie for about 3 weeks.
Oh, amazing. Now you're an actor, so maybe you have some insight into the Harold Ballard movie that Jason Priestley's working on. You got any info on that?
Actually, it's interesting because Jason and I are partners. We have I'll give you I'll break a little. No, never mind.
Oh no, come on, do it. First of all,
I can't. No, I need his permission. However, we're working on something. And I said, what do you, because he's in Nashville now. And I said, what are you doing? What's going on? He said, I'm going back to Toronto to direct. What are you directing? A Ballard movie. Very cool. Because he's a hockey player and he loves hockey, and he would remember Mr. Ballard. So
how can we forget?
He's coming up there, and then maybe I can tell you about some other stuff. Do a follow-up.
Okay, that's a tease
Have
there.
you connected with Jason?
No, but I feel like I'm close because a good friend in FOTM is Gare Joyce, and Gare Joyce wrote the book that the Private Eye show was based on. So Gare became very tight with Jason, and I know Jason was living here when they were filming. I think they sadly canceled that show, which is probably a mistake. But if you can hook me up with Jason Priestley, I feel like I have a lot of connection with the Bare Naked Ladies. I feel like that, like there's so many ins, but I haven't quite got to Jason yet. So I'll task that to.
Do I get points? What do I get?
Well, hopefully when I give Jason his Great Lakes beer, hopefully he shares it with you, or I got some good Italian food.
Do I get all the stickers I can possibly handle?
You can have a Toronto Mike sticker from stickeru.com, and maybe some, I don't know if you partake. I would love to know. It's completely legal now, but
do you know anything about Tasting Room Radio?
No, tell me.
It's a wine show. When Meg and I moved to Naramata Bench outside of above Penticton in the Okanagan, and it is a prime wine growing region. That road in particular, Naramata Bench, and I realized that I had a studio in a barn, and I realized that no one was doing a wine show on radio, which was stupid. It's just stupid. So I started a wine show 15 years ago called Tasting Room Radio. And I still, as soon as I hang up here, I'll be doing interviews about the wines that are at my feet.
Well, I heard you were smuggling wine to challenge provincial laws.
Well, it was bullshit is what it was. It was that every time the Vancouver International Wine Festival happened, there'd be a meeting in advance. And the grumbling at the end was always, if we challenge their wine laws, our wines disappear from shelves. And I said, I don't have wine on shelves, and I'll challenge them, and I'll take a dozen wines across the Alberta border, and let's see if they arrest me. And so the Mounties phoned me and said, where do you want to be arrested? I said, Lake Louise, please.
There's no finer spot than
and then so finally I went there with my case, which is around here somewhere, and I met the press at the border, but there was no bureaucrats, there was no Mounties, and I carried on, and actually it helped to keep the story alive, and eventually there was a bill passed that sort of got us closer to freedom of wine movements. To this day, It's still not happening. And I'd like to talk to the people of Ontario and Alberta and say, you're being misrepresented.
Fascinating. Yeah.
We can't get Ontario wines in British Columbia, and you can barely get British Columbia wines in Ontario. It's bull. It's crap. It's a farm product. It's juice.
Yeah.
Right?
No, man, you're like a rebel with a cause. I love this. This is very cool. This is keep on keeping on, as Kim Clark Champness would say. Awesome. That's awesome. The okay, one more. I got a few more, but one more from a listener named Andrew Ward, who wants me to ask you about a CBC show that you appeared in as a panelist along with Alan Gregg in the early '90s. He says it was great radio, a new way to talk about new music. What's Andrew talking about here?
I have no idea. Not a clue.
That's the best. Okay.
No, not a clue. Like, for example, I can't help you with that. I can't say. I remember when there was a book, the Greenpeace, and an album that came out about the first concert in Vancouver to raise funds for Greenpeace, because basically they wanted to take a fishing boat, take it up to the Aleutian Islands in Amchitka, and outside of Alaska, where they were going to do a nuclear explosion. They said, no, you can't. We're going to put our fishing boat right there. That's where Greenpeace started. That was the project. They came along and said, we'd like you some comments on you emceeing that concert. And I went, what are you talking about? It was the first Greenpeace concert with Joni Mitchell. I don't. Well,
good memory of it.
And they sent me a photo of me, Joni and I and James Taylor backstage going over the song selection.
Wow.
I went, holy crap.
Joni
and I, concerning. Actually, it is one of the best stories of my life, is my 10 days with Joni Mitchell. I'll tell you later. And basically, I emceed it and then forgot the project. Totally forgot the project. How is that possible? I've got a great photo. There's a photo of me adjusting Joni's microphone. Where the hell are the roadies? Where are the technicians? And why am I adjusting her microphone and looking at her saying, is that good? Does that work for you? What the hell was going on that night?
Terry, are there other gaps like this? I mean, how can you ever forget that moment? And I'm guessing that all comes together, of course, because Bob Hunter and you worked for the same employer for many years.
Who was that?
Oh, Bob Hunter. Oh, isn't he the?
No, I know Bob Hunter.
But wasn't he? He was at the City TV at $2.99.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Of course. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. And we missed him on the coast. He was a great voice. And I wonder how much he was appreciated in Toronto. Was he?
Not probably not enough, as you know, not nearly enough. But I guess he passed away about 15 years ago. So as I find is often the case, it takes somebody has to die before like they get sort of their
exactly. Can I ask you about Alan Fotheringham? Is he still there?
Who?
Writer. Alan Fotheringham.
I gotta plead ignorance.
Okay,
I apologize.
He was my favorite writer in Vancouver. And he went to Toronto, and I tried to follow him and lost him because it is tough from this end of the country.
Right.
An incredible writer who wrote, his one memory of Vancouver was the freedom at the end of the street. And what he meant was, even in downtown Vancouver, if you find the right space between the buildings, you can still see the mountains. You can still see the ocean. You can still see the forest. There is escape at the end of the street. And I carry that with me always.
Well, I can speak to the fact that Biff Naked is doing well. So she's a neighbor and a dear friend now. I know you had her for...
Yes, she is.
You had her for 30 years or something, but it's our turn now to have some
nice.
Biff Naked here. Mark wants me to ask you, and I'm curious as well, how much, I'll read it the way you worded it, but how much worth of movie and music swag did he get in his life? Free trips, etc. Like, I can only imagine you were buried in free stuff for many, many years.
Yes. The answer is yes. And my wife, and my wife, Meg, when I bring it through the door or it arrives at the door, she says landfill.
Oh.
I have certain things. And because my camera's all screwed up, I can't show you certain things. How do I change the focus so I can actually show you my room?
In Zoom, I believe if you look at Zoom, there's like, I guess is
Show-
it beside,
show me where
you
it
know where
is.
it
You
says
can
stop?
do that.
See where it says stop video? You know, there's a chevron to the right of that, like an arrow pointing.
Okay,
up.
let me go. Hold on a second. Blur my background. I'm gonna take it out. There.
Right.
Yes.
There you go. That's what I'm here for. I'm your one-stop shopping here. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There's Keith and Terry. Nice.
A little blurry. I don't know who took the shot. Here's I was trying to show you this. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's see it. I love this.
Here it
Love
is.
this stuff.
I don't know what year this was. There's
Okay.
Rick Hansen in the
Softball game.
middle.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's the three of us.
Okay. So help out because
Gordie Howe,
Gordie Howe.
Brian Mulrooney, me playing catcher. Big Dan's and up there, another Much Music alum.
Yeah. Oh my God. He there's a kind of a famous Toronto Mike story. He was walking by my house one day, like in the early '90s or something, and he made a comment about the sprinkler. He goes, "That's a cool sprinkler." In my mind, I was like a teenager, but the fact that this guy, that the great Dan Gallagher, was like talking to me at all was like, "That's Dan Gallagher," and he's talking to me. That was a kind of exciting moment for me.
Hey, can I show you what I'm reading?
Yeah.
I'm going to do an interview about this book, or have you already done this?
No, but I there's like a tribute to him at like a Shoppers Drug Mart or
No,
something.
it's from his brother Frank Triano, and Donnie Triano was just the greatest guitarist ever. Now that I have this, keep talking while I go find something cool.
All right. No, actually, thanks so much for that opportunity because I want to thank the good people at Ridley Funeral Home for supporting this show. They've been tremendous sponsors. I actually have a date later today with Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, thank you to Great Lakes Brewery and Palma Pasta and of course, Sticker U. Just a word about Canna Cabana. It was created for and by people who love weed, love to smoke it, buy it, chat about it, and share it with friends. At Canna Cabana, they've got more than just weed, though. We're talking bongs, pipes, vapes, dab rigs, grinders, anything else a smoker would want. I recommend you sign up for the Canna Cabana Club. It helps you be the first in the know, and you get to know when there's a sale going on. Not that they'll be beat on prices anyways, but go to cannacabana.com. What do you got there for me, TDM?
There you go. I'm glad you could do that. This
All
is
tape, all exciting live to tape here. Okay. Okay, is that Brian Adams?
me and Brian. Yep. Hold on a second.
Wow. How's he doing? I know he had some kind of COVID thoughts that were kind of interesting that made the news over here.
I let that slide by. This is about the only shot myself and Aerosmith.
Wow.
We did a tour. I'm sorry, it's blurry, folks. We did a tour of all of their favorite spots in Vancouver. And
Wow.
unfortunately, along with it went the stories of drug abuse and misuse.
Well, they were the Toxic Twins. Corey Hart?
Yeah, Corey.
Love
Sorry,
Corey.
These are we're sitting at the bottom of the bag.
Well,
but
you know that Steve Anthony claims he's the boy in the box when he was at
No.
Chome in Montreal. So he's in a
No.
box, like a glass
Really?
box. And Corey Harding comes into his radio show in Montreal, and Corey says, "You're the boy in the box." And there is a cameo of Steve Anthony in the video in the Corey Hart video, "Boy in the Box." Okay, hold on. Let me see. Oh, Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Wow, look at you. Okay,
We
you
were
ever
great-
bring
we were
back that
great-
beard?
we were great friends. We did half a dozen interviews.
Wow, he's too smart for us. Frank was
I
too
won't keep
smart
you-
for
I
us.
promise not to keep you long.
Oh, Tina Turner, love it. Yeah, love it. She's simply the best, although that's not her song. Most of her hits were covers, as you know. Okay,
Moving
there.
on.
Speaking of Paul Myers, that's Mike Myers, and beside Mike, there we have. Is it Patrick Swayze?
No, hockey player.
Okay. Oh, I should know this. Why am I struggling here? Who is it? Oh, Luke Robitaille.
Yeah.
Love it.
On their set in New York City.
Amazing. Dude, what a life. Honestly, what a life. I got to make sure I haven't left anybody out from my questions here. I did get a question about how much you made at Much Music, because there's we're told that you were notoriously underpaid at that establishment, as cool as it was. And you don't have to give me your T4 form or anything, but is it fair to say you were underpaid during your Much Music years?
Yeah. Well, compared to CBC, of course.
Sure,
But you weren't there for the money.
Right.
You were there for the gig.
Just
for
to
the
keep
hang.
it. You were there because it was a cool place. Yeah.
It was
absolutely.
a great, cool place. And you can't put a value on creative freedom. You can't.
Right.
When you find it, you go, holy crap, this actually exists. You can have creative freedom. You can do whatever you want, which is why I'm on CKUA. Because in the 26 years that I've been doing the show,
Yeah.
no one has ever said, why did you play that? I just play.
You play what you want, because I
Absolutely.
I talked to David Marsden, for example. He now has a web venture, but oh wait, hold on. Let me see what I'm looking at here.
Think about it.
Well, I was gonna guess because it's kind of small on my screen. I was gonna guess Joni Mitchell, but that's not Joni Mitchell. That's
Janis
who is
Joplin.
it? You know what? Shout out to Bill King, FOTM Bill King, who was the keyboardist for Janis Joplin. But just like Jimi Hendrix, one of those 27 clubbers that we lost in the early 70s, early 60s.
Speaking of roles, here's a role.
Okay, so that's the Fantastic Four. What are we looking at there? Is that Thor?
That's me doing the interview.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing.
Love it.
You want me to, shall I stop now?
Well, the only thing is, I guess but 99.9% of people listen to the podcast and will not see these lovely images. That's all. But so I just, they'll be frustrated on their bike ride or
Maybe
whatever.
watch the video now.
Yeah, maybe go check out the video here. Awesome. I'm just checking. I think I drained the swamp here, but I need to know why you what's the official reason you leave Much Music?
I was told to leave. I was asked nicely by Denise Donlin. She said, it's been 15 years. It's a great run, Terry, but we got to get younger. No, she didn't say that. She just said 15 years is a great, right?
Right.
I know you got other projects. Way you go. Thank you very much. And it was kind of painful because for both of us, because I did her audition tape that got her gig, and well, she got her own gig, but I recorded it. I interviewed her and I was asked what I thought, and I said she's perfect.
So I guess she was just the messenger on that one. Obviously, maybe it was a budget cut or something. Who knows? But time to move on. They said that. Yeah, I didn't know that detail, but I did just recently. I think last Thursday, Tom Wilson from Junk House and Blackie and the Rodeo Kings dropped by, and I love talking to Tom. But Tom was talking about writing "Burned Out Car" with Murray McLaughlin at Denise's house there. So he was just sharing that story, which was pretty.
I love
cool.
your show, Mike.
Yeah, Terry, thanks so much for doing this. We're gonna have to do a sequel at some point, but what a legacy you've got here, and what a great career. And honestly, you were one of those names where I'm like, I got to talk to TDM at some point. It was almost intimidating to reach out to you, and I'm glad we could put this together.
No, here's the deal. I'm quite approachable. The fact still remains is, and we've been talking about my life. Well, you're going to go through the same thing at some point in your life as well. But we're talking about my life in a time and space that is hard to remember without writing it all down. But now I got a podcast. Now I do tasting room radio. So, and I'm forced to drink gallons of wine or taste it.
Tough life.
But Mulligan Stew on CKUA radio. It's there every Saturday. It's all you have to do is just get the CKUA app or just stream it 7 to 9. And it's the best radio I've ever done.
Long may you run.
Thanks, eh?
That's my blessing for you now. Now, I'm actually hoping, this is going to sound strange, but I'm hoping you'll pose for a Zoom photo with me so I can use that when I promote this episode in 15 minutes here. So get as handsome as you know how to be. You ready? You know how to be handsome?
Jesus, Lord love it.
Lord love it, Doug love it. Okay.
I'm actually not going to pose. I'm just frankly going to be me.
Yeah, that works.
As best I can. That's all I can do.
But just remember, this image is going to outlive us both, so just be ready. Okay, 3, 2. That's it, buddy. I'm gonna cook this up, and here, in fact, let me just turn off the camera so we're all alone.